Hey, what's up, house groups? Welcome back. It's been a unique stretch of weeks with Mike visiting a few weeks ago to talk Build the Future stuff, which just, holy cow, everyone. Like, it was so incredible announcing the pledges on Sunday. Mike said it on Sunday, but again, like, thank you so much. Like, this is firmly in the what only God can do list of crazy stories here at Revision over the past 7 years, and we cannot wait for what's ahead. So thank you so much for just making a sacrifice to help push the mission and vision of this church forward. And then after that, we had Thanksgiving week, and then last week was Serve week, and here we are, we're back. It's good to be back in small groups tonight. Now, on Sunday, Mike, he talked about this God-given hardwiring within all of us to rule and shepherd and cultivate the things around us, but we live in a broken world. Like, sin is real and it twists our hearts. And like St. Augustine said, at the core of sin is disordered affections. It's loving the right things in the wrong way. And so we have these good things and desires, and they get manipulated into something ugly. Like, so ugly, in fact, that Mike compared himself and all of us to King Herod, the evil, controlling, murdering, narcissistic villain to the story of Jesus, King Herod. And I don't know, hopefully this isn't a one-to-one comparison here for you, but I think it's really hard to deny that our desire for control has been manipulated into something outside of God's intention and design for us. We overreact to situations, big and small. We tell these little white lies to protect ourselves, but we tell ourselves it's for the good of the people we're lying to or about. We kind of just puppeteer the world around us, and then if something doesn't go how we wanted or in a way that we expected, or if, God forbid, someone were to call us out on something that they saw in us that forced us to be vulnerable and humble ourselves and really give up the seat on the throne of our lives, if anything like that were to happen, we freak out a little bit. And likely, something like that has happened in your life, and you remember freaking out a little bit, or a lot of it. And we all know that we do this. Like, I think we could all sit around the circle tonight and have a surface level conversation about how, yeah, I definitely try to control things around me. And then we go home and go about our week without ever really talking about our Herod-like tendencies or having to admit them or come face to face with them. But, like, what would be the good in that? Like, what's the fruit in that conversation? Like, whew, that was a close one. Almost had to talk about my sinful heart. Yeah, that would have been gross. Anyways, highs and lows. Like, we all know that we have these tendencies, but in our attempt to control the narrative of our lives, we brush them off kind of as no big deal. Like, oh, well, if everyone struggles with them, then I guess at least I'm not crazy. But the danger with normalizing sin is that instead of being in control of it, it starts to control us. Like Mike said it on Sunday, the more control we try to capture, the more chaos we create. Like, the more we clutch for control where we aren't meant to have it, the more desperately we attempt to manipulate things that we aren't in charge of, and the more turmoil and pain we unleash on the lives of the people around us. And while none of us want those results, right? Like, none of us want to create chaos or hurt to the people around us, even so, we still cling to this unhealthy, chaos-creating way of controlling the world around us to some degree. And so the question is then, like, what do we do? Well, first, I think the most important thing we can do is just look to Jesus. We look at his life and how he lived and notice that there's a big difference in how he ruled and shepherded and how we control and manipulate. And it boils down to really just this one word: compassion. The more we're compelled by compassion for others, the less we're compelled to control them. Like, that's it. That's what we see from Jesus. Like, we just don't see this desire for control in the life of Jesus. Instead, he bends himself and spends himself to serve and to save because he's compelled by compassion. Again, the more we're compelled by compassion for others, the less we're compelled to control them. And so maybe this week, instead of just praying to be less controlling, try praying to be filled with more compassion. And then lastly, like, just to get real practical before we head into small groups tonight, let me just remind you of Mike's 2 challenges for us this week. And the first one was just to identify one thing in your life where you're trying to control something that isn't yours to control. And then come to God, come before him and just confess, Lord, I've been trying to capture control here, and it's just creating chaos for me and everybody around me. Help me surrender it to you. Help me let go of this thing so that I can grab hold of the better things you have for me. Find one thing this week where you've been clinging to something that God never intended you to hold on to, and it's making you weary, and just let it go. Ask him to help you let it go. And then the second challenge he had for us was, if compassion is the antidote to control, then actively seek somebody this week through to see somebody this week through Jesus's lens rather than Herod's. Like, just find one way this week to show compassion to someone in need. Do one thing to get up underneath somebody else's burden and bless them. Release control and give compassion. That's how we can look a little more like Jesus and take steps closer to him this Christmas season.